So let me go ahead and share my screen here. So actually in your Math 092 class handouts, you'll find that I have added a new handout, the SQ4R lesson. So if you guys want to go ahead and access that, you can do that. And this one actually comes down to, how to effectively basically read your textbook, how to navigate your textbook, because, a lot of times, and it may seem like, a tedious job, but you can get so much information from your textbook and you don't have to read everything in detail, but even if you just go over, the content, give it a read through one, so that way you know where the information is. If you needed to go back and look at something else, you can always do that. So at least you get an idea of, how your textbook is broken down, where to find the information and that sort of thing. So normally, when you're starting out, and, we're doing e-textbooks, so they're not, hard copy books. But if you guys have access to a hard copy, if that's what you purchase, that's fine. But even with an e-textbook, you can still do a lot of these things. Let me go ahead and get Eliana in. So just to show you, if you go into your, Math 135 course and go under My Lab Statistics, so it looks a little bit different for you guys, but, of course, it's still under the same menu option, and then click on e-textbook. I think by default, it takes you to chapter 1, but, for some of the beginning parts of the book, you can, just click on the menu option here and go under content, or maybe you can even start at the very beginning. I don't know if it lets us get there or not, but it definitely takes you to the content pages. So, they're talking about the title page, copyright page, and all of those. For those, you will need to kind of move backward. So you can see you have this left arrow over here. So you can definitely use those to go backwards if you wanted to see, what the title page and the copyright page look like. So I think there's, a couple pages that it goes back to. This is kind of what the title page looks like if you move forward. This one actually is showing you all the different exercise that they have. So they're calling it, the putting it together sections and exercises. So it's got a list for those. And you can see these will be all from different chapters based on, the different assignments you're working on. It's got some applets that do some of these calculations, and you do have access to that. So here's where we're getting into our, inside of the book. And this is your copyright page right over here. So it just shares, all the different details with you. So those are some of the first things that they're talking about over here, and this is just so you can get familiar with your textbook. And I can see, oh, okay, she's having trouble hearing me. But here is kind of where, you're getting into your table of contents. Yes, this is a blank page. And this one, obviously gives you an idea to see, how your chapters are broken down, what other information is available. So you can see for each chapter, you are actually going to have a review test. They have a chapter test. So these might be a good place to kind of look at and, maybe find some practice problems just to kind of see, what different types of questions there are. And then you can see there are some other assignments that they have here. So, just based on what you learned in that chapter, they give you some exercises. This one is talking about, what college should I attend? And here you have a case study about, oh Lordy, is that crystallizes for cash? So, just different activities that they have outside of, what your chapter and each section and those exercises are broken down into. And this is something you will see for all chapters. So you're going to have your review test, you're making an informed decision, a case study. So that's available in part of all the different chapters. So the content just kind of makes you familiar with just what are the different types of information you have available for each chapter, so you can see all the different chapters. And we go all the way to chapter 11. Now we're not going to be doing all the sections from all the chapters because that's too much material to cover, but you can still kind of see how they're breaking down your textbook. Because guys, reading and getting information from your textbook is definitely going to be a very important part of getting the full experience for this class. So they're talking about the contents page, the introduction, and then towards the end of the book you will find the glossary, the index, the appendix, the bibliography. And again, if you just go under your menu options over here, you can scroll down and you can see this is where they have all the different tables that you will be using. And we'll start using these tables in some of the upcoming chapters, so you will get to see those. So you've got your appendix over here, you can see the index at the very bottom. You will have access to some answers. Obviously, with these textbooks, they don't give you solutions to each one of them. I believe usually you'll see the odd numbered ones, so you can kind of see those. And again, you can use this as a resource to get extra help if you want to. And that's kind of what they're asking you to do with this process. But that's just for the general, wrong page. Oh, it's not in Word, it's in PDF. There you are. Okay, so that's just to familiarize yourself with the textbook. Now, when you're getting into each individual chapter, and I will definitely say, guys, after you're done with chapter 2, starting with chapter 3 with our statistics class is where we're going to get into, calculations, formulas, actually solving problems. Because right now, chapter 1, we just mainly talked about terminology and concepts. Chapter 2, of course, we're focusing on, frequency distribution tables, the different charts and that kind of thing. So we haven't really gotten into like calculations and that kind of thing, which is what's going to start, chapter 3 onwards. So you can see they're talking about, starting out by surveying your textbook, or you can even think of as, scanning your textbook. So find out, what the title is, what are the objectives and goals for that chapter. With the introduction, they will usually, bring in an example or something just to highlight kind of what you're getting into. They're talking about headings, subheadings, what kind of visual aids you have, what are some of the important keywords you will be looking at, summary of your chapter, and then, of course, the questions at the end. So they're saying, look through your textbook chapter, look through what all the information is available. And, these are some of the points that they're saying, look for these things when you start reading your chapter. Now, when you start getting into the next part of this process, the question. Okay, Ileana is not able to hear anything. Try checking your... Okay, Eliza, you were having trouble logging in. And I think, is Ileana not in our meeting anymore? Looks like she's not. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. So, basically, again, like I was saying, they're walking you through how to effectively read your textbook. So they are saying create a purpose for your reading, turn your headings into questions, one at a time. Use questions like, why, what, how. Um, when you are reading through these different headings and the different content, instead of, so much as who, where, and when, they are saying use more of these questions as you go through, reading your chapters. Then once you have come up with these questions, you are reading to answer these questions, right? So once you have find out, okay, why are we going through this process, or what exactly is the purpose of this formula or whatever you are looking at. So once you have come up with those questions, then you want to answer those questions. So again, you're working with this, one section at a time. If your question is not answered in the text, then maybe we need to change the question that we came up with. Underlining or taking notes that, what is something important that you need to remember from each section. And then they're talking about the 4 R's, right? So you've got the SQ, which is the scanning or the surveying and the question. And then you have the 4 R's. So one of them is the read. The next one is recite. So basically say your answers out loud. Again, if you can't, then maybe start by rereading the section, or and again, underlining and making notes is up to you. I know some people do not like to write in their textbooks, or of course, being e-textbooks, you may not have that option. So maybe you can do notes, kind of keep a either a actual notebook with you where you are writing these things, or you can do it electronically with Word or something like that. So that's the second R. Then they're kind of going with write with more of the sound of an R than an actual R. That's why they're putting that W in parentheses, because they're saying write. So create notes, So a lot of times what they're basically doing is they're going through the visual process where you read through your textbook. Then they're asking you to say it out loud. So that's your auditory, saying it out loud. Now, the next one is writing it down. So this one is using more of the kinesthetic mode, because then you kind of have that memory of, writing stuff down. So you will remember, okay, this is what I wrote down when I read my textbook. So, write down your answers for the questions that you asked. Practice, again, with math especially, any kind of math, the more repetition and the more practice you can get, the better you're going to get at that. They're saying if this was for a science class, drawing and labeling can be something that helps. So that's your third R. And then for the fourth one, they are saying review. So you're basically, after you've done the reading, the reciting, the writing, now they're saying, you want to reinforce that learning. So review. So do this at least 3 times, immediately before closing the book, after beginning the next study session, and at the beginning of the weekly session. So they're saying, review these notes right after you're going to close that chapter, right after you're done with it. Just kind of in your mind, you can go through or look through the notes you came up with before you begin your next study session. Again, kind of look over what were the things you went over in the last chapter, what you learned from that. Now you're ready to build up on it and move forward. And then they're saying, of course, at the beginning of each week, so that, you've had the weekend, maybe you haven't studied over the weekend, and, just took some time off. So when you're starting a new week, again, it's a good process to just review what you went over. And so that's kind of how they are describing this process of the SQ4R. You've got your scan, or as they called it, survey. You've got your questions, and then the 4 R's: reading, reciting, writing, and reviewing. And, I can only walk you through the process, guys. You need to read through your handouts. You need to read through your chapter, because there's only so much information I can share with you when we're in class time, right? There's not really a lot of detail. Some of the important highlights I will mark out and say, guys, remember, this is important from this chapter, focus on this. But ultimately, the final preparation is going to come from you guys. So that is really where you want to get into a little bit more, personal kind of study. So since we're working on chapter 2, you can see This is kind of that introductory page for your chapter 2. And then you will see as you get into the chapter, they were talking about identifying your headings. Obviously any formula or any definition they're going to give you is going to be important. You will see how they do their little examples in here. On the side also, you will see how they have the using technology, or they're using simpler words to use to define a definition. So you can see how they have these kind of marginal notes over here that you can kind of look through as you are reading your chapter. They're talking about caution here with the graphs, how the scale is. And we talked about some of this when we were talking about how statistics can be used to misrepresent data. So, obviously, as you guys are creating your own graphs and charts and frequency distribution tables, those will be some things you yourself will have to pay attention to. So there are so many resources that you have available when you are looking through these textbooks. I mean, you can see in each of the margins, they have something or the other they're having you do. And I had pointed this out before, but I wanted to show this to you guys again. At the end of each section, you will see they show you how to use different technologies to help you with your, like this is on graphing. So you can see they have for a mini tab, a TI-8384, which looks like they don't really have the ability to draw graphs. Then you've got your Excel. We're not really using StatCrunch right now, so we're focused more on Excel or Google Sheets, obviously. So you can see they are giving you the step-by-step process on how to create your graphs in each of these different technologies that we have. And then they get into your exercises at the end of the section. And these were the ones that I was talking about, that they do have answers for some of these questions, not all of them, at the end of your textbook. So if you go down to where it says answers, you should be able to find some of the answers for these questions. So again, just as an extra practice. And then I wanted to show you where we get into histograms in section 2.2. Again, at the end of this section, there we go. So they're showing you how to draw histograms. So again, on a TI-8384 calculator, mini tab, they've got StatCrunch, and then down here they have the Excel guidelines that shows you how to draw your histograms in there. So you do have these technology step-by-step processes at the end of each section. So just kind of keep that in mind, especially when you're not able to get a hold of me, or you're kind of working through your assignment and you want to know how to do this. You can definitely look at your textbook for some of these options. And another thing I wanted to point out is, again, in your Math 135 course shell, when you go to My Lab Statistics, you will see you have, of course, I mentioned the formula sheet at the top. You've got your textbook, but this is where you have other resources available to you. So if you go down to the bottom, you will see how you have the study plan. So the study plan is to help you come up with more practice problems if you wanted to do a little bit more practice. So let me show you that. So this is what the page will look like when you just open up your study plan. But since you guys are working on specific chapters, I will go to this third tab over here where it says all chapters. And then from here, you can pick the chapter you want to do extra practice on. So again, since we're working on chapter 2 right now, you can go to chapter 2 and then you can see it breaks it down by the different sections, and you can click on any one of these plus signs if you wanted to see like different subtopics or different headings for each one, or if you just want to go to 2.1 and do extra practice problems, you can see how they have it written down. And this little icon that you see next to your problem number, this is actually tells you it has a video that you can view. So if you click on that, and look at the bottom, you will see how it has your help me solve this, view an example. And then when you click on get more help, you will see that's where that video is going to be available. The textbook section where this problem comes from, it will have access to that section. You know, there's a built-in basic calculator that you can use. And so this is all under study plan. So, you know, whatever problem you want to do, and you know, the benefit of using a study plan like this is it does not affect your homework grade. So if you do good or you do bad on this, it's not going to affect your homework grade. This is literally just for practice. And you can see this is broken down by all the different chapters that you will be, you know, covering in this class. So that's under study plan. I can't remember if I showed you guys the multimedia library or not, but you have access to multimedia library. So you can see you of course got access to your textbook. You've got more videos here, applets, PowerPoint presentation, you know, they have some test prep videos, some on StatCrunch also. So they have all different kinds of resources. Let's say you just wanted to work and see some extra videos. So you can either do it for all chapters or whatever chapter and you know, section you're working on. You can say, okay, from section 2.2, find out all the videos that are available. So you can see there are videos available on the examples that they have in the textbook. There are some author, you know, the person who wrote this textbook, they have some of his videos explaining, you know, some of the concepts, going over that. So you can see there's just all different kinds of videos available in each, you know, for each of these chapters. Like next, we will be getting into chapter 3, you know, where we'll start talking about measures of central tendency, measures of dispersion, and, you know, measures of position and stuff like that. So again, if you wanted to see what kind of videos they have available, or you can just do select all and see what different resources are available for the different multimedia options. And so you can see there's an applet available, test prep videos, PowerPoint, you've got your textbook, you know, for section 3.1, and then all the videos for that section. So you can just see all the different resources that are available to you right here within MyLab Statistics. So, you know, make use of whatever resources you think will help you out. Now, this is in teacher mode, so there are some extra content that is not available to you because they give a lot of extra stuff in the teacher mode, but this is what yours would look like. And you can see you have access to the study plan, the multimedia library. Of course, if you wanted to see your own grade book, and then, you know, of course, your textbook and stuff like that. So like I said, it will seem tedious to, you know, use your textbook or read through your textbook, but I can tell you it makes a world of difference if you look through the video. And even your handouts are really, really well defined. As I had told you guys earlier, your handouts come from a different textbook, but, you know, obviously it's still the same material you are covering. So you still have access to the same material. So all of these are available under the class handouts if you wanted to look at handouts, you know, in one place, or under each one of your weekly assignments. So week 3 and 4, since we're working on chapter 2, you will see under read, you have access to those same handouts. So you still have access to, you know, handouts 1, 2, and 3 from chapter 2. So I've broken them down by each week, but they're also broken down by, you know, well, not broken down, but all of them are here combined together also. And, you know, it goes down to, I think, chapter 8. So I wanted to know, normally when you guys read your textbook or, you know, prepare for your homework and your test, what kind of process do you normally get into? Like, how do you study for an exam or get ready for an exam? So does it involve mainly just working on homework and the different assignments?
That's pretty much what I've been doing. I try to do the assignments and then the actual like homework and then the quizzes in a fairly short period of time before we take the exam. So it's fairly fresh.
Okay. Does that involve any kind of reading at all, Dennis? A handout or the textbook?
Oh yeah, as I'm going through and doing the homework assignments, I'm always referring back to the book or the handouts, things of that nature as I'm doing the homework assignment. I try to just run the quiz straight up without making it an open book quiz, so to speak, just to kind of test my retention more than anything.
Yeah, that's a good practice. And especially since you have 3 different tries that you get on the quiz, you can definitely use the first try, like Dennis said, just not doing it as an open book quiz and trying to see how much of the material you have understood and how much you need to, practice maybe a little bit on some of the more difficult topics on, or, something that you might have had trouble with. Anybody else, what kind of practice do you normally use, getting ready for an exam?
Well, I kind of do the same thing as Dennis, try to do it like a little bit ahead of time before your exam, obviously, but kind of like not too far ahead. So that way it's still fresh, like he said, you still remember what, you just learned and everything. And not only that, but whenever you're working on the homework, even though you get like an answer correct or something like that, just try like the similar questions. So that way you can practice more with each question that you get.
Yeah, and that's a great tip, Naomi. Yeah, so even if you got the problem correct, you can always click on similar exercise to get a little extra practice from that. And like I said, if you don't want to mess up with your grade, you're happy that you got that problem correct, and you don't want to try it again and maybe get a part of it wrong or something like that, you can always go to study plan and pick the same problem. And here's something, let me show you another thing. So when you are in homework, let's click on all assignments here. And yeah, I think chapter 2 closed. So let's just look at chapter 3 over here. So, over here, of course, it just shows you question 1, question 2, question 3, that kind of thing. So let's click on question 10 for now. So you will see right over here in the middle, it actually gives you the problem number. So you can see this one is 3.1. So that's coming from section 3.1. And this is actually problem number 20. So problem number 20 should be similar to problem number 20 from your textbook also. So let's see if we can get into section 3.1. And I'm actually going to work backwards. So I'm going to click on 3.2 and go back to show you problem number 20. Not here. Yeah, so you can see they're talking about the acidity or alkalinity of a solution based on, its pH number. So if you look at number, 3.1.20, you will see same thing. It's talking about the acidity or alkalinity of a solution based on the pH. So the numbers might be different, the values might be different, but, of course, the setup is going to be the same. So number 20 in your homework set is going to be the number 20 from your textbook. And another thing, like I said, if you wanted to practice without messing up your homework solution, go to study plan. So go down to study plan. Go to all chapters, like I said, and then you can go to section 3.1. So I'm going to click on my section 3.1 here, and you can see you've got number 20 to practice over here. So it's telling you you have an animation available and a video available. So when you click on this and go under get more help at the bottom, you've got your video and your animation, both of those sources available over here. So on their study plan, you can see, like I said, you can do extra practice without messing up your homework. And I think you should have those same resources available here. So the video and the animation are going to be available under homework also. these extra features are not going to be available in your quiz or exam mode, but they will definitely be available under homework. And because study plan is for practice, it's going to be under study plan also. So just some other things to help you, kind of get better at, getting that extra help. So anybody, so to me, it sounds like you guys are doing the homework, doing the quiz, and when you need additional help, you might be going to textbook and handout. So does anybody start out by reading their textbook or looking through the chapter first?
I usually read my textbook and take notes of like the vocabulary and everything first, and then I'll go do my homework like everybody else.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good to know, Mary. Very nice.
Yeah, I also skim my textbook just to get like keywords and definitions down to at least understand what we're talking about. And then if I need more help, I'll go back in.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Very nice. Anybody else want to share like how you prepare for an exam, what kind of process you use when you're studying?
I also read the textbook first, but I don't actually skim my textbook. I'm actually one of those people that reads everything, and then I take notes as I go along. And then I read through the handouts. I do that, and then I'll do the homework and whatnot. But I'm one of those people that reads basically the
Okay.
whole thing. But
Yeah, and that's very nice, Jeffrey. And I know that is not a common practice. So I'm really impressed that that is something you are doing. So I see, Eliza, you said you take notes and then do the homework. Haley, you are saying you're also taking notes for the vocabulary and then doing your homework. So that's very nice. Because, like I said, there's only so much information I am able to share with you. So if you can read through the textbook, the notes, get some of that additional information that I was not able to share with you, you are getting a little bit more comprehensive, understanding of the different concepts, the different, especially the different types of examples, because, not each example is going to be the same. So it definitely helps you understand just the different variations in your different examples. The other thing is, time management, and I know we kind of talked about this last week also, but like I was looking through your homeworks just to make sure, where everybody was standing, if you guys had finished your homework or not. And I saw a lot of you were working this morning to finish your homework, and that's definitely okay. That's not an issue. But some of you were like right at that 1:30 mark, and I was like, man, we've got class in 15 minutes, and you guys are still working on homework. I know as a student that makes me nervous if I'm getting that close to my deadline. And so a lot of times what you are doing at that point is you are actually rushing to get your grade, right? You're wanting to get that 90%. And I'm just not sure how much of that you're really retaining in terms of how much of that you really understood, or if it was more of like, oh my God, I got to get my 90%, or I cannot take my exam. So, again, it comes down to that time management. And for any reason, you don't get that 90%, till that homework closes, then, you're in a deep situation because now you don't have 90%. You cannot take your exam. And, that's of course going to make you feel nervous. It's going to make you feel bad. Like, oh my God, I didn't get my minimum grade, so I cannot take my exam. So a lot of times, instead of waiting till the day of the exam, maybe in your head, you need to say, you know what, my deadline is midnight the day before. So no matter what, I have to get all my assignments completed the day before, by midnight, or, whatever time you go to bed. If it's 10 o'clock, you can say by 10 o'clock, I have to get everything completed, because it still leaves you a little bit of room. If you were just at 86, 87%, and you needed one more problem to get to 90% or something. But if you're really doing half or a whole section of homework problems, that is where you're going to get into trouble with time, because you are going to be running out of time. And that's something I don't want you guys to get into that kind of trouble, because I know you guys are working, I know you guys are attending class, you're trying to turn in the assignments that you have on the D2L side of things. And so, getting stuck behind 1 or 2% of grade points and not being able to take your exam is something you really want to try avoiding. And so again, if time management is something you're struggling with, then maybe like we talked about it last time, find somewhere to write your schedule down, keep a diary or a calendar. I know on campus we have student handbooks available that have calendars in them. So if you're ever on campus, you can grab those, from, I'm not sure on Greeley campus where they keep those. I know in the Fort Lupton campus, it's right at the front desk as you come to the Prairie building, but I'm not sure about Greeley campus. So that might be something you are probably more familiar with than I am. But, just different kinds of things. Another thing I wanted to point out, because I noticed that some of you did only the homework and not the quiz. The quiz is also part of your grade. It does count for a grade. So just make sure you're not skipping over the quizzes, because, they're a small part, but they are still a part of your grade. And as Dennis and Naomi mentioned, it does help you with kind of just practicing for the exam also, because this question pool is the same. The questions you work on homework are the same questions that are in your quizzes and are the same questions that are in your exam. So you are not going to see a different question on the exam which you have not worked on in your homework. So just another thing to kind of help you keep in mind. So coming back to kind of our discussion with how to be effective readers, and I'm really glad to hear that, Jeffrey, you are one of those people who will read the textbook, not just skim over it, because I honestly think that makes such a big difference. I remember when I was, a graduate student for the math program, the textbook was my resource to go to, because, our professors were never available. They were in class most of the day. And, the way the graduate school worked where I was at, they actually taught in the evening. So we had late night classes, like 6 to 9. And so in the daytime, a lot of our professors would be busy with research and stuff like that. So they did not have office hours. Even though we were on campus, they were never in their office. And if they were, it was kind of like a do not disturb period. So you couldn't really go in and ask questions. And so a lot of times we either had each other to ask questions to, or we would go to the textbooks. And, I was in graduate school in like 2005. Yeah, 2005 and that time. So you didn't have a whole lot of internet, search options either. So it's, especially with higher classes, you don't really have a lot of help with the internet anyways. So you really had come down to the textbook. And I can tell you just from my own experience, the textbook makes a big difference. Even when I come up with examples and the notes that I make for you guys, I am actually using your class textbook to guide me in all of those assignments and, questions and examples and everything I am doing. So even if you are not in the practice, I would say try it, like we're getting into chapter 3 next, try working with the textbook and see, does it make a difference in your learning and your comprehension and in understanding the topic? So again, you can use this SQ4R lesson to be like a guide in, okay, what are the things that I need to be paying attention for? So look at that scanning and the surveying part of your chapter. And then, what kind of questions you can come up with based on what you are reading, and then go through this 4R process of, try to read so that you can answer those questions. Maybe saying out loud some of those answers will help you remember. Writing it down might help you remember. And then after you've gone through that process, just review over everything that you did and see, is this making sense to me? If it's not, then that's when you want to come to me and say, hey, Ms. Daruka, can we talk about this? I don't understand why they said this or why this happened. And we can definitely go in and discuss a little bit more of that. So that's kind of what we are looking at with this SQ4R process over here.